Nice.
Beautiful introduction. Thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome.
So, hi, everybody. This is our July 2020 USA The Artist Living Room edition. And we're very happy to be here all together in this live stream. And we're going to talk about two of these beautiful pieces that were showcased in the Metamorphoses live concert end of May. And first of all, I would like all the artists being present today to introduce themselves. And if you could start, Valencia, that would be very nice.
Hi, I'm Valencia, presently in Indonesia, which is 4 a.m. right now. And the mosque has just stopped praying, so I can actually have peace and quiet. But anyway, yeah, so I dance and I do visual arts, and I kind of started this thing organically, kind of like, yeah. So anyway, next is Nicki.
Hi, I am Nicki, and I'm so grateful that Valencia had started this, and thank you, Leo, for having us all here. I had lived the last 20 years in New York, where I started belly dancing at 15, and then later on met Caridad and Esmeralda and so many other amazing women with a Y, and became a part of Sisters of the Blooming Sun. And now I live in Berlin, and I was so glad to have this opportunity to still be in a piece and a performance, even though being so far.
Hi everyone, I'm Esmeralda. I started dancing with my friend and cousin since I was a little, like 7 years old, 8. I feel so thankful for all these and this concept of metamorphosis. Now I live in New York, but I'm from Puerto Rico.
And my name is Daniel Berkman, and I'm a multi-instrumentalist, composer, and yeah, and I'm really excited to be part of this, and yeah, and so yeah, that's all I have to say. I live in San Francisco, and yeah, and yeah, that's my story.
Hello, everyone. I'm Caridad, currently in Brooklyn, and I started a dance troupe, all women's, not just dance troupe, but just an artist collective, all female, and those that identify as female. And the name of the group is Sisters of the Blooming Sun. And we did a piece via Zoom for Metamorphoses. And it was a beautiful thing to connect again with Nicki, who I met here in Brooklyn. And we performed so many times together, and we created so many beautiful things. And Esmeralda as well, I've met in New York, and we managed to create a piece, not being physically present, and I can't wait to talk about it and see it once again with everyone. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Gemiah, Gemiah Kurzfeld. I'm a professional circus artist, whatever that means. Right now it means unemployed, but yeah, I'm here in California. It's where I was born, but I perform all over the world, and I love performing. That's what brought me here into the Metamorphosize community, especially with the times of COVID, not being able to perform in the way I usually do, and looking for other ways to do that. And I think this community has created a great opportunity to share art and performance and ideas and everything. I also love talking, which is another reason why I'm here. But yeah, usually I'm a aerialist. I do aerial rope and straps, but I also juggle, unicycle, tumble, and all sorts of other little knickknacks in circus. And I did a juggling act in the Metamorphosize show, as well as a duo piece with Valencia, which we'll be looking at some video of and chatting about today. All right.
Hey, lovely. So everybody's introduced. I'm just gonna quickly present what we're doing here today. So we're gonna show little parts of the different pieces. One is a collaboration between Daniel, Valencia, and Gemiah, and the other one is a piece from Nicki, Caridad, and Esmeralda. But we're gonna talk about the first piece. And I'd like to start with you guys giving us a quick overview how like this piece there was two individual solos evolved into being a collaborative piece. How was that process and how did that evolve? How did you come together? Was it because of the Metamorphosize? And yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to take it away, Valencia, or do you want me to go at it?
I can start and then you can add on, and we'll just organically talk about it. So the reason why this whole concert started was because I wanted to perform the Metamorphosis piece before I left the US. Because now that I'm in Indonesia, I knew I was going to have not as good internet and maybe not as pretty a place to perform in. But then basically then I was like, why maybe I can ask other people to perform with me. And that's how the concert came about. So the piece that I was performing was kind of the reason why the concert was started. But then when Gemiah showed his piece, I thought, wow, it's very similar to my piece, you know. And I think at that time the order of the items was such that his item was right before mine. And I was like, why don't we combine everything and like make a collaborative piece after that? Because it was just nice. He represents the male and I represent the female. And we were kind of like exploring this idea of duality of the masculine-feminine duality. And initially I was just gonna do my piece and then collaborate with Daniel. But then we decided to do it all three together. And yeah, Gemiah, if you want to add on anything on that.
Yeah, I mean, that basically sums it up. I found it really interesting though, because as we were like talking about this concert originally, me and Valencia, I mean, I think she was talking with a lot of different people about this idea as it was just kind of budding and forming. She mentioned this idea of like, you know, collaboration, maybe even like improvised, like contact improv. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? But I was like, man, it would probably be really fun though, even though like I don't know how it would work. And it felt like it just naturally kind of continued to like actually to allow for that to happen as we started making our own separate pieces and then seeing that similarity between them and flowing into it. And before I knew it, it's like, yeah, we were working on this piece together, and Daniel was amazing kind of connection and instigator to help that happen in a good way. But yeah, let's dive into this stuff and we can talk more about that later.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe we want to show now the parts of your piece, Gemiah, first.
Sure.
Okay, wait. So I think we should let people know that we are only live streaming the introduction, which means that we are going to stop the live stream pretty soon. And if you want to continue being part of this conversation, please join and register through the link on this post. It should be on the caption of the live stream. It's an Eventbrite link, and it should take you directly to the page where you can register, and then you'll have the link in your email. and then you can access it here directly, and you can talk with us and ask us questions and watch the performance videos. Yeah, so if you can join us here, that'll be amazing. We will be covering this collaborative piece that myself, Gemiah, and Daniel did, and then Nicki, Caridad, and Esmeralda will be also exploring their belly dancing piece, which will be later on. So, and we would love to hear questions. I mean, I think it will be kind of interesting to see how people perceived the piece, because as an artist, sometimes we're like, we're the creator, this is what we want, but we don't know how other people see it, you know? So anyway, yeah, so join and register, and hope to see you here. And the live stream should end.
And now?
It's totally free, by the way, too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's completely.
So officially ending live stream now, is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
Nice.
Okay, done.
Okay.
Done.
Beautiful. Now we're in a
Awesome.
more intimate
Ta-da.
circle.
Now we are
Here in Zoom.
do whatever we want. Okay. So yeah. So we'll start with Jemiah's solo piece.
Exactly.
Which will happen in the order it happens in the concert anyway, which is his piece and then my piece and then the collaboration. So then, do you want to start talking about it first, Gemiah, before we show the video?
I'll do a little introduction. Yeah, so this is a juggling kind of dance piece, and it's along these lines of Metamorphosis. The idea that kind of came to me in it was breaking out of the shell, I think, and that relating to, I think, something that is important for everyone at different points in life or all the time, kind of, and it is an extremely important part of metamorphosizing or any sort of change. Like, you know, I think we as humans, we have to continue changing, and as we change, we have to release the shells of what we were before. And I struggled a little bit with how to like portray that, you know, like clearly. It's one of the difficult aspects of circus is often combining some idea, story, or something with the technical aspects of whatever discipline you're doing, because sometimes they match really well and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you're like, I want this feeling of, you know, this like amazing airy floating thing, and meanwhile I'm tumbling on the ground and it's not feeling like that. And sometimes they flow really well together. But what I found, and this was kind of inspired by something that Valencia said, was part of that was the kind of releasing a layer of clothing, essentially. And so I had this onesie on that I figured out ways to take off during the act. And I was struggling a little bit with that, like, because I didn't want it to feel like like stripping or something, you know. But there was a couple things, and you'll see in the video of ways that I tried to make that a more acrobatic and a more like this release of something unnecessary, something that is no longer needed, and then continuing into the freedom of juggling and moving in a different format. And similarly, that was also kind of what the juggling balls represented, is this new medium of experiencing life and branching out in space as a being. Anyways, I could keep talking about it, but let's go ahead and watch it, and then we can chat some more about it.
So Daniel, that's your cue.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah, amazing, amazing piece. For me, it really has like surreal aspects almost, you know, because it's in like this living room environment, and then you're like this creature evolving into different stages. And first, you just have this like shadow, and then you evolve into a body, and like how you made like when you took off your onesie, how that didn't seem awkward in a way, how that was just like a beautiful transformation of this kind of creature. And then also like integrating the balls into your piece, for me was really surreal and kind of hypnotizing to watch. I think this effect of doing it at home made it even more powerful in a sense. I don't know. Yeah, it was a good setting. Yeah.
Great. Thanks,
like
Leo.
that.
That's nice to hear. Yeah, it was very interesting, like that doing this performance at home. You know, it's like for me as a circus performer, it's very not how I usually would perform. Usually it's in the venue and the whatever. Like it's always something. It's not very much of a performance that you would do at home. Versus like a musician might perform in a venue, but also take that back to jamming with friends at home or something. Circus is not so much of something that you do in any sort of the actual performance aspect at home. But I think it was really applicable. Something that I was wanting to say earlier too is like that this breaking of the shell and this more metamorphosis, I think, is really applicable to this time of like the pandemic and quarantine and this feeling of actually being stuck at home. I mean, I think in most of the world that's less so now, but here in California, it's still we're still supposed to be sheltered at home, and that's what made this this concept more like close to home. It's not pun not intended. For me, is this like I feel like the act was almost like it's looking at like this hope for the future of this time in the home, like being confined and like redeveloping oneself, and then that searching for the breaking out of that shell and going back into the world, which I think for me is really exciting. I'm ready to like get back on stage and be out there again, but well, who knows when that'll actually happen. With the current events around the world. But it was really nice to have that actually, like kind of what you said, like where it's this performance in the home. It's this performance that feels personal and it feels different than what we usually would do.
Yeah, definitely a sort of exposure.
Yeah.
Like also having your body in front of a camera is something different than performing with your body on the stage, like in a setting.
Totally.
That is something that I think is an interesting thing to discover in these times.
Yeah.
In times of live stream and doing art online, I think questioning how that feels, and how to what certain degree is also the body like vulnerable, in a sense, more vulnerable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Go ahead,
Gemiah,
Daniel.
I was going to say that the music was very captivating too. What made you decide on that piece of music?
I like it. Music has always been a challenge for me. I grew up and my parents played a lot of music live. They used to love jamming, and so I was exposed to a lot of music, which was amazing and so lovely, especially like in the like right there in the living room, everybody jamming. And I was never the most musical myself. I love music and I've played some instruments, but I'm more of a physical person. And so I like to move to the music. I like to, juggle to it, or, like I would be sitting there, juggling or doing handstands or something, while everyone's jamming and playing together. And, but in some ways, because of that, I never exposed myself growing up to as much of the just music in general, outside of what I was around in my family. And so as I started becoming a circus artist, I started when I was 10, but I started like actually really focusing on it and going into it professionally at 16, that was the same time that I started like realizing I need to have songs. I need to have music to perform to. And it took me a long time to start finding the right music to do it. And I think it's a struggle for many circus artists, is finding music that is not only like speaks to us and makes us want to move and perform, but also is available to an audience, as well as technically functional. You know, simple things like the beat, how fast it is, how slow it is. Does it change pace a little bit so that you can carry you through an act, versus keep something that's more even and starts to get monotonous after a while. And I saw someone perform to this artist, Olafur Arnolds. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. A while back. And I loved her performance. She was a dancer, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I just loved the way she worked with his music. And I don't think it was the same song. I can't remember which song it was. And immediately I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out who that artist is and keep that in the track. And I think someone else was performing to one of his songs too. Is that Leah? Was that you? I think
Yes.
that was Olafur as well. I think you used in your act, you used some music from the same musician.
Yeah.
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 But,
I wanted to ask if you would do this piece again in the same theme, what would you do differently?
I think I would the main thing would just be spending more time working out the details. You know, like something that I liked about this piece was that I choreographed and improvised at the same time. You know, like I had like quite a bit of it. Like, this is what I want to be happening here and there. But I also allowed for something I like to do when I'm juggling is to allow for myself to move the way I feel in the moment. And it allows for a juggling that's a little more fluid and natural rather than like trick. Because that's, you know, something for me as a juggler, and as just a circus artist and someone who loves to watch performance. I love juggling. It's one of my favorite acts actually in circus. And it also can be one of the most boring acts to me as well. And that really depends on how someone moves. I don't actually look at myself as an amazing juggler. I think I love doing it, and I'm completely competent at performing and doing good performances with it. But there's jugglers out there that are just incredible, their skill level. But some of them are so good, but they're still not always the most interesting to watch. And that is, for me, at least from my perspective, is when they don't move with the juggling. And that's more like, you know, like for example, I know a lot of jugglers that are incredible that aren't even performers. They just love juggling, and they can have incredible skills, but the juggling, if you put it into a performance, it's not complete because it needs that movement, which is something that I'm always striving to find, is that balance between this technique and the movement. Anyways, I'm getting a little distracted. It's something I think I could work on a lot more myself too. But for me, I think I would work out some more little details, that there was moments in the act that I really would have loved to just like have more intention and more feeling, and have had more time to really, you know, like video it and look at every detail and figure out how to place it, because it's a very different interface than what I'm used to having the video. So there are certain things that, you know, like just the angle of the camera wasn't right, or the way something I did didn't portray exactly what my intention was. And that's something I love actually as a performer, is playing with all those little, like, it's like, what's different if I just do this little thing or something, and that, you know, like interacting with the onesie, you know, like figuring out how to make that coming out more of a flow that just, you know, like I wanted to create that feeling of more, it just like, there's a struggle to break out of it, and at the same time it's just like the skin is just coming off, you know, it's just flowing away. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think it's time to see more of the piece. Valencia, would you like to speak a bit about it before you give a quick introduction? And then we watch the part of your piece, or do you want to showcase it now?
Sure, but I think we can also ask if any of the audience has any questions for Gemiah, because we have asked him questions, but I don't know if any of the audience has any questions. We have, I think, 3 people. If anyone has any questions, put in the chat, maybe. I don't know. Or we can also come back.
Yeah, we can do the questions afterwards, after
Okay.
the showcase. I think that's easier.
Yeah. Okay. So for my piece, I can just talk a little bit about it to start, and we can play the video. So for me, I think this is the very first piece that I've created that is kind of autobiographical, in the sense that it is directly inspired by my own life experiences, which makes it pretty personal. The time when I performed it in the concert was the 4th time I've performed it, and it's always a little bit different each time. The very first time it was created, it was in a burn in Denmark on a boat. It was a very small burn, just 100 people. And the idea for it came the morning of the performance. And so it was extremely spontaneous. I think what I wanted to convey was a sense of constant growth, of like, okay, you've passed this stage, you've grown, but that's not the end. There's still more growing to do, something along those lines. And also how you grow through letting go, I guess. But I think I'll let the video play, and also I would be curious, instead of explaining too much, to actually hear what are your thoughts, and if you have any questions after the video is shown, because I have had some very interesting responses from people who have seen it, back when I performed it in Berlin, for example. And it's always fascinating for me to hear that. Yeah, so the video that you're gonna see is a shortened version, which is also Gemiah's video was also shortened, so that we have more time for talking. I've done some editing with it. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, so yeah, so Daniel, you can play the video.
Can you walk on the water if you are? Could your blood running cold? Is that the familiar to love? Lord, we get to go to love.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's that.
Oh,
So I
Wonderful.
think I would like to hear if anyone has any immediate impressions or yeah, anything that comes to mind.
yeah,
I was,
definitely. Sorry, Tanya, go first.
oh yeah.
Mm.
Well, it was just such a well put together choreography, and it didn't hurt that you had that space too, that house and the different rooms, and I just love the way you utilized them in the changes with the music too. It was just really masterful, actually.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it was a
the only thing that's choreographed was the movement of the screen.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's what I meant.
Also,
Yeah.
and also for me to have these layers that I need to take off at certain points in the song, but like kind of everything else was filled on the spot. Yeah, anyone else has any yeah, Nicki or
Yeah, I also loved how you metamorphed, and then all of a sudden you had the layers coming from different different areas. Yeah, it was really like a haunting kind of a feeling, and like just stripping off. Really cool.
is somebody saying something? Thank you. Mm-hmm.
And then you
Was
grew
Leo?
your wings at the end.
Yeah. Leo, were you gonna say something, or did I hear somebody?
yeah, yeah. It was definitely a very visual piece, if you know what I mean. Like you had all these clothing items that like were perfectly timed, taken off, and then you played with like the different lights in the room, you know, when you were like in the darkness and then going under, and you really played with the camera, and like you played with the audience in a sense, and with your emotions and your face, and then it got brighter and brighter. Like it was just very fascinating, and you like I felt a bit sucked in, you know, by you also taking me as an audience with you into your emotional world and into your transformation. Like this metamorphosis, yeah, it was a really visually enticing piece, and I really liked that, and how well it all came together also with Gemiah's piece. Yeah, I think it was really, yeah, a really emotional piece.
Thank you. Yeah, it is
Nicki?
emotional because in a way I was kind of trying to represent all these layers that I remove. It's kind of like you remove them, but you still want them, you know? So it's that tension that you're letting go, but you're not fully letting go yet. So there is a kind of like, do I want to throw this away or do I want to keep this with me, you know? And so that was part of the journey, and also something that kind of came up very spontaneously during my first performance in the Danish Burn, because I had the same black top and the floral skirt, and then the second layer inside. So I didn't transform 3 times. In that first performance, it was just one layer. And there's also no cocoon either. So the first time I did it, it was just the black top and the skirt, and the very glittery top and skirt inside. So it was like a one change. But I started off with a blanket, like a black blanket that was in the first song essentially. And then I got out of the blanket and then started waking up. And then I removed the first layer. And I had a moment on the stage where I was a little bit confused, like, so I've removed this layer. There is no more removal of layer. What do I do, you know? And I had this very first experience of, I've choreographed before, and I've also been a performer of somebody else's choreography. But that moment on stage, I kind of had a spontaneous choreography moment where I was on stage and I had a thought, if I'm the audience watching me right now, how can I make me understand what I'm trying to convey? Like, how can I make me as the audience understand what I'm trying to convey? And I looked at the black blanket that I threw away, and I was like, and I just started interacting with the blanket in a way. I started to come closer to it, then move away from it, and then pick it up, and then drop it back down. So I kind of established a relationship with the blanket, but this was not an idea that I had before the performance. It happened on stage, and that became something that I kept with me for future performances, the sense of interacting with the object and kind of developing a relationship with it, that as the audience, I'll be like, oh, you know, what is this relationship? What does the blanket represent? And why is it being thrown away and being brought back? You know, like, what does that mean? Because I kind of like it when I watch a performance and I'm curious. So I kind of try to think, okay, what kind of performance do I want to watch? You know, so how do I make the audience curious? So that was continually evolved, you know, as you see in the, I'm sorry if the noise behind is really loud. I can't control it. But yeah, so basically at the time of this performance, I have the cocoon, which is the first layer you saw, and then the black and the, what do you call it, the skirt, and then the more fancy, pretty costume, and then the gold bra and bottom, and then the wing. So there's kind of more layers, like every time I do it, it's a little bit different. But the last time I did this performance, it stopped at the gold layer because I didn't have the wings. And so it was kind of like moving from the cocoon to the black and the floral skirt, which looks kind of prim and proper. So there is also this sense of like, okay, I got out of the cocoon and I'm still kind of this acceptable social version that society deems all right, you know? But then I realized that I'm actually shrouding my real self. I'm shrouding this shiny creature that is hidden underneath. So then I removed that layer and I'm this shiny creature. And it used to be that it ended there. That was my final costume. But then I decided to take it one step further to the next costume, which kind of felt very like naked. It's almost like the color of the skin. So there is the sense that, now I don't need this fancy layer anymore. I'm just gonna show myself. So every time there is always this kind of like thought process. And I don't know how it's gonna look the next time I perform it. Yeah, I don't know if I'll have a new layer somehow, somewhere. And the wing was gifted to me by someone I met in LA, essentially. It was at a party, and then he put it on me, and then suddenly he's like, you can have it. And I was like, oh, perfect. I'm gonna do a butterfly something piece, and it's perfect for it. And he also brought some cocoon things that I ended up trying during the party. Yeah, so I've talked a lot, if I'm making sense. Yeah, any questions or?
Well, hey, I just want to. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I have it on speaker view, so I can't see what other people are about to talk. Anyway, yeah, I just want to say it was really nice to watch this again, because during the live performance, it's distracting, you know, you're getting ready for the next performance and stuff, and just watching it all in all was really cool. Also, the editing was amazing. I think it really, like, it was neat. It actually added to the feeling, this kind of, it felt like a real experience, you know, like, and in some ways, like, I liked when you were talking about the burn in Denmark or something. Like, I felt like I was there, kind of, you know, like I felt like I was on this journey with you in parts of your life, which was really cool. And and the feeling of yeah, the transformation, the like coming out, and there was so much. Well done, and also thank you for the editing on my video on a separate note, because I like you've got that skills down, and I'm definitely don't. But what I wanted to ask is what was your feeling like? I noticed this is kind of this. There's these moments where it looked like you were kind of presenting your clothing, your broken shells, or whatever the whatever you just emerged from, to the camera, and I was wondering what that feeling was for you. Like, where was that coming from, and what, like, was that what you were feeling, that you're like presenting this thing that you're letting go of, or was there something else, or was that just the flow of what happened?
So I think there are two possible ways that I can address this. One is I want to place the object where the audience can see it. I want it to be very obvious that I'm placing it there, you know? And I think there's a sense of, as you can see, the camera was kind of following me, you know, from the corridor and then to the bedroom and then to the kind of closer to the door. The door to the balcony, and I think I wanted to express a sense of moving away from the corridor, and so the place where the computer is kind of represents where I come from, and the door represents where I want to go to, specifically in the context of this performance. Because when I perform this on stage, I can place it anywhere because people can see it no matter where, you know. Yeah. But with regards to this context of a performance, I want to see that the audience can see it's right there, and I keep wanting to go away, you know, but then I get pulled back, and then I go away, and then I get pulled back. And I wanted to touch on this earlier, but I forgot. This just to be a bit more personal in a way, this performance kind of happened not long after I had a breakup. But that's not just the only thing. It has been 5 years of letting go of comforts. And so in a way, I think if I can summarize what this is, it's basically anything that is comfortable for me. So it's basically, yeah, so I wanted to like let go of that. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway.
Okay, I just want to quickly interrupt. We have 10 minutes for showing the collab piece. So does anybody else have a question for Valencia now? Or maybe can we ask it also after the collaboration piece?
We can also, yeah. I want to make sure that we all have time to speak. So yeah, I want to dominate the whole stage.
You're not at all. I'm just touching with the time. Nicki, you had a question. Can you ask it afterwards, or is it like really urgent? And let's
yeah, totally. It was about the morphing, and I was thinking that if you had done both of them, if you had done because you can see it is so beautiful with the visual effects that you made. I just wanted to comment on Gemiah's piece, also having the visual effect that you added. So it was Valencia. So cool.
Yeah. Okay. So shall we get on to the collaboration?
Yay!
Yeah.
I'm excited for this one. I'm very excited.
Yeah. I think. Okay. Yeah, it kind of started with the contact improv idea, and then I don't know if we want to talk about it a bit and then go to the video, or just go to the video and then talk. What do you guys feel like?
Maybe brief description really quick. Yeah, I think. Go ahead. Yeah, for me, yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, I think it like basically you know, like we described a little bit before, it was this kind of, we noticed that our two pieces were similar, and thought that we're trying to find a way of combining them, and this this idea of this like improv dance together, masculine, feminine, came up, And honestly, like what I was saying before is like I was skeptical of this idea, you know, like I liked it, and yet at the same time, like to not like to actually have any sort of improvisational dance without actually being anywhere near each other seems really hard, you know, like that's, you know, what I've experienced in that before is usually people are interacting directly so that they can really see each other or feel each other, you know, if rather than, you know, like where if something's choreographed, it's a little bit easier to be like, okay, we're both doing this. But we decided, okay, let's just play around with it a little bit, and it felt like it just flowed really well. And so then this kind of came out, and I think Daniel really like played this connection between, like he created this space for the connection between worlds of separate computer screens, and you know, like, you know, miles apart, and it really like created that space for this to happen. Yeah, I don't know, maybe we can just describe it more after. Do you have anything to say, Valencia?
Let's play it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, all right, let's play the video then. Okay.
Daniel, I just love your last post. So pretty.
Amazing. Oh, you
Yeah.
guys. Can I
That was
directly
beautiful, guys.
pose a question from the audience to you? It's a question to Daniel, and I also had that question in mind. So thank you for asking, Carenza. Because I thought about it the whole time. It was really, really fascinating piece. Did you actually see the dance and then you responded to it with music? Like, how much did it influence each other? So how much of what you were doing was a response to it, or how much of what you were doing was like, of the dance was a response to the music? Like, to what extent were the two kind of art forms influencing each other?
Well, I'm actually a dance accompanist. That's one thing that I've been doing for almost for a long time, anyway. So I pick up on dance and the sort of the energy that is coming across, the type of choreography, the type of movement, and I try to. There are a lot of factors, a lot of layers that I take in all at once from having done this for so long. First impressions, and also, okay, I see where they're going with this, or I see what they're trying to convey, and then I have to translate that into music somehow. The instruments were already pre-prescribed, right? So I knew that I was going to be playing my kora, and I knew that I was going to be playing piano, and I had my onde martino, and so basically these are instruments that are closest to my heart, and coincidentally already set up here because of COVID-19. Everything I do is right here, so it made it really convenient to have it all there. So yeah, so I'm not sure. Well, definitely I would say I was playing off of Valencia and Gemiah first when we were doing the initial, playing around with ideas, and at that point it was completely improvisational. I was just playing to what they were doing, but then I came up with that piano part, and I made it. I was just looping. I was like, oh, I like that piano part. Oh, I'll loop that, blah blah blah, and it's like, I don't think I want to scrap that, because when you approach things from an improvisational point of view, or approach, what sticks and what doesn't stick, right? And in this case, we were doing the performance. We rehearsed it a few times or a couple of times, and then the performance. But after that initial one where I set that piano loop, I was like, I just can't scrap that. So I decided to use that as like a framework for everything. And I think that's part of like what Valencia was saying is like most of it was improvisational, but like the camera angles and the costume clothing changes were choreographed. And so in this case, there were a couple of things pre-composed, which was just that piano line, and then that little tabla line too. I kept that too because it was a layer that I could just throw in, and it gave me some more freedom to add on to that. So I would say it started out as a watching what Gemiah and Valencia were doing and trying to play off of that, and then it became more of a, okay, now I can generate ideas too. Then it became more of a back and forth, and then I would kind of watch them for, okay, maybe this change will come now, or maybe I'll wait,
Yeah.
So basically it's like just a playing off of each other and being sensitive to the movement.
How different is it to do this on the screen? To watch us,
Right. Well, again, since COVID-19, I've been doing all of my dance classes on Zoom. So I play on average 4 classes a week now, which is not a whole lot, but it's a good exercise in doing what I do in the studio on a screen. And it's been great, and people seem to love it, and it's and I've been doing it for 4 months now. So when it came time for us to do this, it was like, oh, it's like I'm playing a dance class. Of course, it's not the same thing as playing in a studio, but it's like, with performance art, I mean, for decades, artists have been playing with this idea of the medium. You know, it's like in the '80s, video was a big thing. So there were a lot was done on video. There were live video, you know, like video screens and things. You know, installations and things. I remember seeing a Brian Eno installation in downtown LA, sometime in the '80s and stuff. And so, anyway, to me, this is just another medium, right? So this is performance art. This is a different way to do it, as opposed to, you know, going to the, you know, the theater and seeing it there. So I was just looking at it. Well, this is a new art form. This is a new medium, and it's yes. Sometimes there's a little lag, and sometimes the music gets cut off, and sometimes things freeze. But you know, that's part of the art, I guess.
Yeah. The real problem.
Okay.
First world problems.
Yeah, it is, because
No.
in the video that of my performance, you probably notice a lot of the music being kind of laggy. That was because of the internet connection, and also when I performed live, it sounded exactly like that too. So I kind of was thrown off sometimes, you know, because my music is like behaving erratically. Like I've never had to face that before. But anyway, let's move on so that the belly dancers can speak. I think we are running quite low on time. So we will move on. And if we have time at the end, then we can rehash some things.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for presenting your pieces and
You're welcome. Thank
being
you.
so open and in this really nice conversation. I wish we had more time. But for now, we're gonna move over to the belly dance piece. And in the end, we're gonna open up questions again. So, hey guys. Hi. Are you all there? Yes, you are.
Yay.
Great. Awesome. So first, like, how did you come together? How do you guys know each other? And how did this idea of metamorphosis kind of came into your piece?
Caridad, do you want to start? How did we get to be Sisters of the Blooming Sun?
Sure. So I believe we met. Where did we meet, Nicki, the very first time? I know we spoke about
we met at Gratitude.
Gratitude Migration. It was a festival in New Jersey, a regional burn. And I was performing with 2 other girls at that time.
I was cutting up the fruit for you guys to
have. Nicki was cutting up the fruit for one of our performances where we balanced fruit on a platter, and we were dancing on the beach, and it was super magical. And the name of the group is Sisters of the Blooming Sun. And Nicki and I connected. And Esmeralda as well. I met her at a rooftop performance party. And we just...
I was a tiger.
Yeah, she was a tiger. It was a circus theme. And I was doing gypsy dancing, and she was a tigress. So yeah, we together, and you know, we've been performing so many times together. You know, for different events, different venues, different events. Sometimes it's the 3 of us, sometimes it's 5 of us, sometimes it's 10 of us. And we're all from different parts of the world, and we all have different strengths and different skills, and we share these skills as much as we can and support each other like a sisterhood, more so than true. And some of us are visual artists, some of us are musicians, and fire spinners, fire eaters, poets, and yeah, and then
all on the top of the head balancers. We all have swords that you can light on fire, and Caridad is the founder of Sisters of the Blooming Sun, la madre from from it all. And now I just moved to Berlin, so there's now a Sisters of the Waking Moon starting here, where it's kind of that feeling that people are already one of the sisterhood, like that you just meet and then there's just this connection. And then every Wednesday now we have workshops between us, you know, like where every one of us like does the warm up and a class in whichever skill that they have to also like foster this like teaching, that when we go to festivals that we like, you know, bring the elixirs and we bring workshops and spread it.
Yeah, so you are like already an established collective, kind of from what I understand. How did that went, like not being physically together, but having performed physically together and now doing it like online? What was the feeling of that? Because I don't know, for me, like dancing with a partner is something very intimate and something I personally need to smell the body, I need to feel it, I need to like actively actively sense their energy. But your piece still came together so well choreographed, and everything was really smooth and connected in a way. How was that process of rehearsing?
Well, I think what we established a connection prior to performing virtually, which I think is very important, and establishing that connection and then transferring that onto a digital screen virtually, the virtual world. It was, I mean, it's a bit strange, but I think it's super cool, it's super neat. It definitely adds like another dynamic to performance. And rehearsals were a bit tricky because of the time zones and maybe the lag on tech issues. And the mirror thing was like bugging me out. Like she's using her left, but I really gotta, it looks like I'm using my right. That was kind of tricky for me. But
it also kind of felt like what usually would happen is that like Caridad and I would rehearse together, or like Esmeralda and I would rehearse together, you know, and then like they rehearse together, and then we all like just like, you know, twice or so actually rehearse together. And but for me, like now it was also really nice to have this be so virtual because of not being there, like you said, like and actually all of us right now with Corona are like all anyway not really meeting up, so it had been like also nice to have kind of individual like mirror space, you know, like we all had our mirror space, seeing seeing how we flow together. So that was a cool way of like utilizing, and then I guess going forward into the screen and going out. We always had the ending.
yeah, we give good face.
Yeah.
Always.
And Esmeralda, how was it for you with the rehearsal?
It was different because we had to really make sure we're going to the right or to the left. Also, the timing. Sometimes here is evening, but Nicki is early morning. um, and but somehow it's also similar because when we rehearse together, we also record and we share each other. And after we meet in camera, Nicki or Caridad or I send each other videos so we can keep practicing. So that is how it's similar.
Yeah, really cool. Do you guys want to showcase the video maybe, and then talk a bit more about what kind of images you created there, what they mean for you, how the connection to the whole Metamorphosize was, and yeah, about that space you created. Daniel, let's show the video.
Yay!
Amazing.
Yeah,
I
so
think
that was Shiva in Exile, and that's a song that came out in 2003, and so it had kind of been just on my iPod, you know, in the back of the mind, and then when you're running, or you know, and then thinking about how the stages keep rising and the drama more, and the beautiful ending of close and morphing into another, you know, stage of kind of fit really well, I think, with the song.
for
The
me,
awareness towards the end.
sorry.
The awareness towards the end, and yeah, the different stages of relative to perhaps quarantine and staying indoors, and you know everyone's experience is different, but I'm sure everyone came out of this different person. So yeah, I'm sorry, Valencia.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to say that I find it very interesting that this particular artist living room just so happens to have one half of it like completely improvised, and then the other part is choreographed, to see the contrast, because it's fascinating for me that, you know, your piece is choreographed, and that comes with its own set of challenges compared to improvisation, because when Gemiah and I did the improvisation, we kept having to watch each other, and we all had also the problems with the mirrors that Caridad was mentioning. You know, how the screen looks from me is not the same how it looks from other people, so that's also a problem. But for you guys, you kind of have to make sure the music matches, and you know, the site matches, and so it's kind of interesting how
And the internet connection.
Yeah, as you can see,
Exactly.
my screen, my video was super choppy. It just ended up being that way for some reason. Like I was like 3 seconds behind, I think.
Yeah.
Zoom life. What can we do?
Exactly.
And what we tried to do with the choreography, to have it kind of smaller steps, because at first we were like, okay, all of this, and then we were like, okay, actually, let's do, you know, like, let's just go to the right 3 times, go to the left, you know. It was like, simmer down now with the choreo, because exactly what you're saying. Yeah, a lot of the time we do structured improv, most of the time, like.
Yeah, there's a magic with improv that I don't know if you could recreate that. You know?
And also the concept was also, of course, yeah, the staying at home for sure with Corona, and then how it kind of also relates with the typical metamorphosis example of a butterfly, a caterpillar going to a butterfly from an egg. And so already in the egg are formed this imaginal discs that are all of your body parts when growing up. And when you get into the cocoon from the caterpillar, where we are like at first pulling for that human touch, like we're really trying to get closer, and then the cocoon starts growing with our different fans and veils. And in the cocoon, you're actually eating the caterpillar. So you're at home and you're actually just eating, actually, and you're just being lethargic, staying in bed, and kind of start pitying yourself. And then you go into the cocoon and you just are solitary. That's when the enzymes eat yourself, and then the discs actually start growing with doing stuff like all of the amazing workshops that have been online through Corona. And then you start spreading your wings, and then again morphing into, not every day when this is over, but something else that has grown through one metamorphosis of the many.
Yeah, I think it's nice that you mentioned the imaginal discs and also the eating that happens happens before the butterfly stage happens, because I worked on an animation project in 2016 that is called Imaginal, and
Wow.
I really, yeah, literally called Imaginal. That was the first time I did digital drawings, and my first digital drawing was a butterfly. That kind of was the start of my journey with the butterfly symbology. But what I really love about that animation is the kind of multi-layered use of the analogy of the butterfly. So as a person, as one person, we have our own process of transformation, but as a collective, also it's happening. I mean, the overconsumption that's happening globally could possibly be a precursor to this stage, you know, where you're eating a lot and a lot and a lot, and then things are dissolving and things are confusing and people are scared and all the shadows coming out, and then the next stage happens, you know. So I think it's nice to kind of put it in different layers. Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed, like, I really enjoyed this kind of heaviness that was there in the beginning. Like, it made me really emotional, where you're kind of like going to the floor and then you just have the hands going up, like really reaching for something. And there was like this big heaviness with it, but then it evolves into something like very light, you know, and like the movement of the body becomes something very light, and at the same time, yeah, still very powerful. And what I really liked about this medium is that when you watch the video, you can look at each individual performer of you, and there's something else to find, you know, because you didn't have synchronized costumes, and you didn't have the same veils, and you didn't have the same apartment or the same stage. So each little screen or each little was a little piece by itself, you know, and you could discover things there. And I think that is something that's kind of gifted to me through this live stream that I would never have if this was performed on a stage, you know, which would also be super beautiful, but also different. And yeah, again, how this like personal insight into somebody's artistic persona is given through this is, yeah, something I really enjoy. And yeah,
I
that
really
I
liked
always want to see again.
Esmeralda's background.
Yeah, she was
Yeah,
like
yeah, the
but
profound.
the
Yeah.
rainforest.
I
And I
think
think,
Daniel.
yeah, I was just going to say, Leo, you took the words out of my mouth. Especially the hands part. It really, because if we were to see this in a live setting, it would be hard to just isolate the hands, right? So there's something about the screens, how you could really play with this. Oh, all I can see are the hands now, you know, and it's really, that moment was really powerful for me too. And I just really love the way all three of you utilized the screen as an instrument, as another aspect of the choreography. It's really nice.
Thank you.
Oh, that feedback.
Us.
Yeah, it was really, really nice to perform together. Like I said in the beginning, to have that connection, and also like, you know, has us also like, okay, this week we see each other 3 times, you know, like, and also get yourself out of the lethargic time to, like, you know, have a show when there a lot of the other shows not happening.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's such a collective that is worldwide.
Yeah, and I like that how like actually all the pieces from Metamorphoses were not a replacement for the shows that didn't happen, but were like a new thing that we all uncovered. You know, it was not like, oh, I can't do this now. Now I'm gonna do that. But it's like the worst alternative. But it's more of something exploring something in a new field, and like working with that medium and then finding new ideas and new connections and collaborations. And yeah, I'm really excited to see more and like be positively surprised, you know. I think that's a really interesting part of the process.
Yeah.
Started.
So we're actually at the 90-minute mark. But
Yes.
this is our first time doing it in this format in a way, because Leo and I had the idea to actually provide milk more out of what we created for the concert, because so many of the pieces have a lot of depth to it, but when we did the concert, it was just after piece after piece after piece, you know? There wasn't really a time to really absorb everything or to question things, and so we wanted to give this space, and we kind of thought that 90 minutes was kind of a good amount of time. But I don't know. I mean, I'm happy to stay on a bit more, but if you guys need to leave, we can end this here, or maybe even have 5 minutes in case any of the audience members want to say something or ask a question directly, which means you can just unmute yourselves, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself. Let's give ourselves 5 more minutes for questions and impressions.
Maybe anybody wants to say something.
If anyone isn't comfortable unmuting and talking, you can also send a question in the chat that we can respond to as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to just say again, it was definitely, like you said, Leo, a little bit like, and also Valencia, with the when you are dancing together, right? Of course, there is that energy like direct across from each other, and those sporadic moments, you know. So we'll dance at Bali Spirit Festival probably in March if it happens. Whoops, just different locations are also possibilities to be doing these things together.
Yeah.
Even though that's what I'm saying. We can all meet up everywhere, all the collective, different people's houses.
Yay! Let's do it.
Yeah. So if anyone doesn't have specific comments, does anyone of us have any specific things that we want to bring up before we finish?
Well, I just wanted to say it was so much fun and really enriching to perform with everyone, and also interesting, you know, like working with a different format of being on a screen. You know, I've done some other Zoom shows, so I was in a similar situation, but like it was really fascinating performing in this different medium that we were talking. I know Daniel was talking about that some earlier, and seeing how that affects my own performance and seeing how it affects all of your performance was really fun. And also like brainstorming and trying to deal with technical problems. That was something that I think Valencia and I didn't have the time to really dive into. Like we were going to talk a little bit more about, like, there was so many things, especially with our collaborative improv. Like there was a lot of technical challenges, many of which we overcame and some of which we just didn't overcome. You know, like we were supposed to be trying to be dancing right next to each other on the screen so that, you know, like you could see our interactions with each other a little bit closer back and forth. And we figured that all out, but then something changed at the end of the physically piece, and then it made it so that the videos didn't line up in the right way, and so then all of a sudden I'm dancing beneath Valencia, I think. And at the same time, like the way we thought that we would be like showing to the audience screen going one direction, but it would actually be doing it in the opposite direction. Like our movement was flipped.
Yeah.
We thought. And there were so many things that just like were just kind of fun, you know. I mean, you know, sometimes a little irritating, but also just like, oh yeah, well, that wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, actually, we wanted to have our screens next to each other, and we would disappear to each other. That's the visual we were going for. But in the end, we went that way, or at least the audience did as going that way.
Yeah.
So in the end, all completely like on an actual stage, you don't have this problem. Basically, like, okay, how the stage looks, how the audience looks, you know. So kind of working with Zoom and having to navigate like the performer view versus the viewer view being different was like a total brain black, like a brain fart. Yeah. And even with my solo, I had to Zoom with, I think there was Chelsea and Daniel and I think Gemiah, just going through the different parts of the house and checking which part has good Wi-Fi and which parts don't. Remember that? Like
I remember that. That took a while.
like, oh my God, like the place where I wanted to do it couldn't really have a connection. So then we had to kind of brainstorm where to do it. And that took time, you know, when the Wi-Fi becomes a factor. So like you can't just perform anywhere you want. But I'm very thankful for the space that I have as well. And my friend is actually in this call. I don't know if he's comfortable being introduced, but I just want to say thank you for giving me that space. And it's like, it felt very much all aligned. Yeah. So ending up, I think I would like to, continue experimenting and seeing what kind of boundaries we can push and ways to be creative in this time of isolation. And hopefully this community will continue to be a platform for that and for the transformation to take place, and for us to not be afraid of that transformation, because for a lot of us it's a very scary thing to get uncomfortable and to become a new version. Any last words? Or
Yes, I would like to pass on a question from the audience to the Sisters of the Burning Sun. Thank you for the beautiful dance. And the question is, did you watch videos of your performances in the past? And how does it compare to watching yourself on a video chat?
I think definitely, again, that like magnetic feel when you are dancing with each other is a beautiful thing that we share. And so yes, you can have it over screen, but like I would just love to, like, you know, kiss and love you both and everybody else in New York. And so I think that is definitely what is missing. And thank you for Samantha and Nicolette, and they're out there. Hi.
It was interesting, the panels. There's something you could do via video chat performing that you can't do, you know, live, and vice versa. It was nice how we were able to peel off each other. Not necessarily something planned, but it worked out because of that delay and because of the panel situation. So it's definitely like a new thing, a new experience for us. It has its perks for sure. And zooming into everyone's like world, which is also different and unique, is also an experience in itself. So that's, you know, I'm down with Zoom. It's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of like, you know, one-on-one better, but it, you know, in the flesh. But like I said, there's qualities, there's things that you could do in the virtual, you know, and the editing that Valencia did to Gemiah's video and to her video is also super dope. Yeah. I thought that was captivating, and it was just nicely complementing each other. But thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed. Thank you everyone for being a part of this.
Yeah, let's maybe we have a beautiful comment, another comment from the audience, and maybe that could be our closing statement. I'm just going to read it out loud. Thank you very much. Very good experiment. It was emotional and personal. I think you all should do more improvisations because it is impressive when you see artists doing something unexpected for themselves. Also, like working with space at your houses. it's real and gives emotion of unexpected. I think that was a really beautiful sum up of,
Yeah.
of what we did or what we spoke about.
Okay.
Yeah, it was so lovely also to kind of speak more with Caridad and Esmeralda because, you know, I've spoken to Nicki, but not so much with you guys. So it's kind of really nice to hear more of your story and how you guys met and how you guys came together. And yeah, because it's lovely to hear and puts more depth into the person, you know?
Thank you. The feeling's mutual.
Yeah.
I gotta go to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm really tired.
Thank you, Leo.
So
Thank
much.
you,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
Nice hearing
Thank you,
about you
everybody.
guys.
It was
Thank you,
awesome.
sisters.
Bye. Thank you,
Thank you.
Daniel. Thank you,
Yeah,
Jemima.
and thank you, Valencia.
See you soon. Mwah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gemiah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow.
Bye.
Lovely faces.
Love you, Caridad.
Ciao.
Yeah.